So, let me ask something. Do you remember not so much the 21st night of September, but the 14th of September? Specifically, the 14th of September in the year 2000, which is hard to believe at the time of this recording was almost a quarter of a century ago. So, what does that spell, kids? Well, a laptop? Not so much. But a specific operating system. And even though this is being recorded on September 1st, which is actually my late Uncle Arthur's birthday, he would have been 96 today, I decided, you know what, I'll show off another laptop, and obviously before my stream tonight of good old Ghostbusters, because that's also going up tonight. And the laptop that contains this gem of an OS that really didn't deserve the hatred it got and bad reputation, but let's delve deeper. First, let's talk about the laptop we're using for this, well, early anniversary, 14 days early. This is a Dell Inspiron, where the hell's the model number on this thing? Inspiron 2500 from late 2000. This was one of the earlier laptops to ship with a specific operating system, as this sticker will give away here. Yep, read the bottom, folks. Windows Me. And yes, I know I always said Windows ME when I was a kid. Even Uncle Arthur thought it was pronounced Windows ME back in the year 2000. We never really read PC Mag too well, did we? Yeah, because apparently Microsoft intended it for it to be pronounced me, like the pronoun. So basically, here's the idea. You got a Dell laptop back in, I mean, this was a pretty entry-level, like, Celeron, what was it, Celeron, probably, what was this, like 64 megs of RAM, 10 gig hard drive was about your standard laptop back in the year 2000, and these were very common laptops. I think there was even an Apple keynote when the Snow MacBooks were introduced, where Steve Jobs I think Steve Jobs literally criticized Dell, because I think at the time Michael Dell had said something like, I think this was like late 2000 or around the time when the early Snow iBooks were introduced, like when they got rid of the clamshells. Actually, early 01. But yeah, it was about several months before the first iPod came out. But yeah, I believe Steve Jobs had, I believe it was this exact model notebook, or a very similar model. I'll throw that in editing if I can find it.
Michael Dell said some disparaging things about us lately. This is their consumer notebook. And it looks like this, and you can just sort of see it's about that thick, and it's got some nice fans in the back, so you can keep an eye on them. And so this is what theirs looks like.
But anyways, so this is probably one of the cheapest laptops money could buy in the year 2000, and by cheap I mean about $1,100, because yeah, even in the year 2000, laptops were not cheap. They would set you back at least a grand. And yeah, there were really no such thing as netbooks back then, because people were still mostly using dial-up back then. And so, while high-speed internet was available, yeah, most people opted for dial-up. So, what did you get for that $1,100? I don't even remember what the original price tag on this was. This was mostly a base model, because I think there was also the Inspiron C800 or something similar, because you'll see why in just a moment, because it's the same case design as some of the later, or Latitude C800, sorry. Basically, let's take a tour, because why not, right? Touchpad, 2 buttons, 10 keyless keyboard, power, volume control, Dell support assist button, media playback controls, play, pause, stop, fast forward, rewind, and then, of course, the indicator lights for your power, hard disk activity, and battery charge. The battery in this unit is completely dead, completely hosed, was to be expected for a laptop at this age. But did you really expect anything more or less? And so on the front, we got the 3.5-inch floppy drive here, which does work. I tested it off camera. And we got the battery here, which is completely dead, like I said. Nice little rhyme scheme there. Go ahead and pull that out so we can have a quick look at the battery. This is a Dell lithium-ion battery. It's 14.8 volts, 3,800 milliamp hours. And yeah, let's see if there's a date code on here. Does not appear that there is, but yeah. What are you talking about? It says made in Japan. Well, no wonder this battery failed. It says made in Japan. What are you talking about, Doc? All the best stuff's made in Japan. Actually, I know that about 5 years after this laptop was manufactured, actually, it was were not Japanese batteries. It was batteries that came from Korea. Started exploding, and then that's when there was a huge battery recall of the after the infamous exploding Dell laptop video went viral on YouTube back in '06. So, anyways, point being, let's take a look at the I/O we got here and unplug the. That's the PA9 adapter, I believe. And yes, if you couldn't tell, I have swapped the original hard drive with a 32 gig SD to IDE adapter. But interestingly enough, even for an entry-level laptop, this has onboard Ethernet, 10100 Ethernet, and a 56K modem. So you do have the option, because this was around the time when high-speed and DSL were just starting to come around. But Ethernet was still pretty primitive at the time. Two 32-bit PCMCIA, there we go, slots. And we have, quite uncommon for laptops today, especially today, is TRS microphone and headphone, but then also line in. So this does make a good laptop for audio recording, despite being an entry-level laptop. DC in, PS2, port PS2 here, VGA out. There is a knockout plug here, which I did own a C800 at one point. This is where the docking connector would go. Parallel, RS-232 serial, two USB 1.1 ports, 2.0. When USB 2.0 was introduced in April of 2000, but sadly, by the time in late 2000 this was released, it was still cost prohibitive. So unless you had a super duper laptop, or a super duper configuration, or a lot of money rather, you weren't getting that. Interestingly enough, though, this laptop does have a DVD drive, a DVD-ROM drive, and there's a knockout plug here where an S-video port would go, and that is present on the C800. And I believe this knockout was for IR infrared, if I'm not mistaken, on the C800. I have to look up the diagram again. Oh, and of course, I forgot to show the bottom. How silly of me. Get it? How silly of me? Because if you want that Windows Millennium Edition key, go for it. I don't think Microsoft's going to care. Now, of course, we'll talk about Windows Me in just a moment there. There's the service tag. It probably won't turn up anything because I think Dell did remove all the older service tags from their website, and actually it's a little smeared, so if you can decipher that, go for it. And there's remnants of a school district tag on here too. So this was probably used somewhere in the city, and by that I mean New York, because the seller who gave me this laptop was from Brooklyn. So go ahead and the touchpad on this laptop's a little wonky, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in good old compact PS2 mouse here, and we had this exact same model when I was in grade school. Now I'm going to have to sort of position this kind of weird or awkwardly, because the problem is I don't really have a lot of room on this desk, and I still can't afford a bigger apartment, and I still got to find a better job. So, but we're not here to complain. We're here to take a look and inadvertently turn the lights on when it's perfectly sunny outside, and I have plenty of natural light and don't need any auxiliary light. And my camera battery is already getting low. I charged this literally as much as I could, so this will have to be sort of a quick video. But for September, you know what? Gotta honor the great operating system that will be booting on this computer. So really, this is going to be more of a quick video. I'll show some web browsing. And yep, there it is, Windows Me. Now, interestingly enough, it goes to native resolution for the boot screen, and then goes to I believe the native resolution of this panel is 800 by 600. And as usual for me, I have the Utopia theme enabled because it was my favorite, or Utopia sound scheme and theme enabled, because along with the Windows Me theme, which Microsoft Plus is included as part of Windows Me. Actually, you do not need to buy it separately. In fact, I'm using the current Windows. Basically it has the same themes as Windows 98. The only difference is Windows Millennium is the only new theme present here instead of Windows 98 or 95. Take a look at the system properties here. Got Windows Me, build 4.9.3000, registered to me at NoBS Software, and yes, that is a company I'm trying to start up here. Intel Celeron, 512 megs of RAM, and if you wanted 512 megs of RAM in the year 2000, you had to cough up quite a bit of money. We have a Toshiba DVD-ROM drive. That is the generic IDE disk, which is the 32 gig SD card. NEC floppy drive. Uses Intel 82815 graphics. Looks like a Lucent modem, very common for the time. Mouse is a Synaptics PS2, which does have quite a few gestures, which is pretty unusual for the time. I do have the proper driver installed. Intel onboard Ethernet, PCMCIA, and of course regular AC97 audio. Again, nothing really to write home about, just your very standard x86 PC hardware from the year 2000 that could run either Windows 98 SE, Windows 2000, and of course, Windows Me. So, really, when it comes to Windows Me, this is gonna be like sort of part of a anniversary video, I guess. Because thanks to my camera battery not charging correctly and not having a lot of time to make this video, it's going to be sort of an abridged version. But basically, the interesting thing I like about the Synaptics touchpad here is, believe it or not, you know what I just realized? Yeah, that's fun. So apparently, I think because I have it because I do have the touchpad disabled when an external mouse is connected. So basically, this touchpad does have like edge scrolling and accidental palm detection and stuff like that, which sadly I won't be able to show because I got the external mouse connected. So first off, let's do some web browsing. Let's not make Internet Explorer the default browser. And I do have ProtoWeb set up on here. I'm connected to their proxy server, so we will actually get the Internet Explorer welcome page, as you would have seen back in the year 2000. And tell us what you think about Internet Explorer 5.5. Order the CD. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, because back in the day, you wasn't as simple as just going to Google and downloading your browser. So, yep, you actually could buy Internet Explorer on a CD. Last updated Wednesday, July 12th, 2000. Wow. Tell us what you think. It's probably going to go to like a DNS not resolved or something, but let's see if it works. Yeah, I sort of figured, but that would have been pretty cool if you could just shoot post about Internet Explorer. Interestingly enough, though, I have my, as I always do on computers that have IE. Yep. Good old Toasty Tech. Nathan's Toasty Tech. And actually, I saw that Nathan recently posted a rant here under his rants page about Windows 10 EOL. So, yeah. Kind of interesting reading this on a laptop from the year 2000 running Windows Me. I wonder if I don't know if he still has the old rants on there, but yeah, this is literally, because the last rant was posted August 22nd of last year, and this rant was posted on the 6th of this year. So, yeah. But, yeah, you can still get the Toasty Tech. That's just through IE. I also have Opera 9.64, which is the latest version of Opera to support Windows Me. Oh, yeah, and you can see I was on Warp Stream watching a classic video. I forgot to clear the cache, but yep, I was on Warp Stream because why not, right? You want to take an old Y2K laptop on the internet? There you go. And look, even LGR, yes. I was thinking of LJN. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyways, but yeah, even LGR's new video popped up there. The channel update. Actually, you know what? And I'm logged in as myself. If you want to follow me on Warp Stream, it's GardenState97 is my username. Yeah, I know, something that's not Ben Kleinberg97. I know, shocking, right? But, yeah, so let's see. because this computer actually is capable of playing mostly modern YouTube on here through WarpStream. For those who don't know, WarpStream is like vintage YouTube for vintage computers. And this is the most recent vid from good old Clint at LGR. I actually just watched this about an hour ago as of the time of this recording. The speakers on this laptop are tinny and terrible, as most laptop speakers are for laptops this old. So yeah, you can see it pretty much stutters, and I'm not even going to attempt full screen here, but let's go back in time a little bit. Let's try, actually, let's not do that. Let's search for what I always searched for on old school YouTube. Good old Roller Coaster Tycoon and how my channel started, actually. Because I did find 2 videos of note. Roller Coaster Tycoon People Bowling, added October 21st of 2006, which just so happened to be my 9th birthday. And so we'll go ahead and play this. Oh. Yep. Gotta stop that because copyright. Yeah, that actually has the original audio track, but I do have to mute the audio because, yeah, remember when YouTube would display the audio disabled notification because the track was not authorized by WMG? Yeah, so sadly I can't play the music because yeah, it's because there's a little thing called the copyright police, but there we go. Well, since this will be uploaded to regular YouTube. But yeah, this is literally a video that my parents literally would not let me watch these suicide park videos when I was a kid. Yeah, I was that sheltered, if you could believe that. I can still remember my mom saying, "Ben, no death park videos." I mean it. Yeah, because this is the video my mom actually caught me watching and got pretty pissed off at me. Again, there's music here, so I gotta mute the audio. But this was literally a video that my parents would not let me watch as a kid because when I first joined YouTube, I was like 11, I think, and my parents were like, "You can't watch this because it's naughty," or typical boomer parents sheltering their children. And yeah, I was pretty sheltered as a kid. Yes, and there was even a time where my dad, every time I was on YouTube, my dad had to monitor me. I'm literally not even joking. Like there were a couple of, I think there's evidence of it on my channel. If you go like way back in the archives, so like 2009 or 2008 when my channel started, you could find like really old videos of me, and you might even be able to hear my dad in the background. I'm not even kidding. But yeah, WarpStream works great on here. That's really, and you can also load like more modern sites. Now with Kernel X, you can install more recent versions of Opera and other software as well. However, I have not yet installed Kernel X yet because at the time I was getting this thing set up for the video, I did not have this connected to the internet, and Kernel X does require an internet connection. So that's pretty much video playback on here. Word processing is, well, word processing. As far as video playback, because this is Windows Me, and that was one of the things that Windows Me was notable for, one of my videos here, the first version of Windows Movie Maker, and we got the sample file, but then I've also got this awesome movie. Oh, wow, it's so awesome I can't even show it. Also, yeah, I literally just took the Jukebox Plus advertisement from the Dell Windows XP computers. Yeah. And you remember the skins? Like, this is Toothy. This was awesome. This was always my favorite one. Yeah, there were different. I literally just took the Microsoft Windows Me sample movie and then put the Jukebox Plus and Windows 2000 sample image in there. But yeah, that is the best movie ever. This is basically like the equivalent of a YouTube poop circa late 2000. You know, one thing I've always wanted to do on this channel, speaking of YouTube poop, is because obviously YouTube poop basically started with good old Windows Movie Maker, and guess which program debuted with Windows Movie Maker, or which operating system, excuse me, where Windows Movie Maker debuted. Yep, it was right here in Windows Me. And this is the first version, version 1.0. So, I have to wonder, I would love to try making a YouTube poop with Windows Movie Maker 1.0. Literally, you can't even add the infamous title cards and animations like you could in Windows XP's Movie Maker. So like this is probably the most primitive editing software, Windows Movie Maker on Windows Millennium Edition, to make a YouTube poop. But that'll be for a later video. We are not going to make a backup copy. So as far as gaming on here, one thing Windows ME was notable for was stripping out real mode DOS support. And that meant that if you had older games like Wolfenstein that required that, you simply could not run them, even if you, and there was no restart in DOS mode. As you can see if I click the shutdown option, we have a new shutdown Windows dialog, shutdown, restart, standby, hibernate, but there is no restart in MS-DOS mode. Because Windows ME, or Windows ME, excuse me, was designed so that it's stripping out real mode DOS actually does make the OS faster, which is why I actually like Windows ME. But if you want to run DOS applications, Windows ME is probably not a good choice. Windows ME was the last of the Windows 9X was the last operating system based on the 9X kernel, and some even call it Windows 98 3rd Edition, which is, in fact, what one of my professors in trade school called it. But basically, Windows ME did introduce some new features. One of the most notable ones, which CompTIA was incorrect about, they said that System Restore was introduced with Windows XP, but it was actually introduced earlier, a year prior, in Windows ME. Now, Windows Millennium Edition creates restart points as you create system checkpoints. It's not going to work here because I don't have the patch. Yes, there was a date bug that caused Windows System Restore to fail if the date was set after September 8th of 2001. So, and Microsoft did release a patch, but I haven't yet installed it, so I can't demonstrate just yet. Although I will say I used Windows ME System Restore on an IBM ThinkPad iSeries 1171 to successfully restore the system. And yeah, it worked pretty well. Windows ME also had other doodads like Windows Image Acquisition, which is still in Windows today, believe it or not. And it also basically allows you to grab images from a scanner or camera. Although oftentimes, yeah, you probably know what happened. The good old blue screen of death. But it basically had all the other system utilities and entertainment that was in Windows 98 2nd Edition. And really the only reasons to upgrade to Windows ME from 98 SE was to get Windows Media Player and not Windows Media Player, Windows Movie Maker, sorry, and System Restore. Those are really about the only two things that made the Windows ME upgrade worthwhile. And also it was a little bit faster too, because obviously no real mode DOS support. But most people back then loved their DOS games. That's why everyone hated Windows ME back then, because it was one of the main reasons was because of there was literally very limited DOS mode support. But for Windows games, it works quite well. A good example of this is a classic, Roller Coaster Tycoon. And for a second I thought I didn't launch the game. But yeah, Windows PC games like Roller Coaster Tycoon run beautifully on this thing. And yeah, even with Intel onboard video, this game is running pretty much buttery smooth. I mean, you can see like there's hardly any noticeable lag. Yeah, try getting this good. I mean, even on original Pentiums, you know, Roller Coaster Tycoon would run fairly decently. But the fact that it runs this well on a laptop that's pretty much period correct, because this is the original vanilla copy of Roller Coaster Tycoon. This is from my original copy of the game. This is actually the rebranded Atari version instead of the original Hasbro version. But basically, this is my childhood copy of Roller Coaster Tycoon, patched obviously to have the no CD patch. But basically, yeah, you can see how well that runs on here. I would build a park, but I don't have time to demonstrate, sadly. And another memorable game from my childhood was SimCity 3000 Unlimited, which I'll be quiet here. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I was gonna say because of the intro, the epic intro. Sadly though, with the no CD patch, SimCity 3000 Unlimited You do not get the music with the no CD patch does not allow the music to work. Without the CD in the drive, you don't get the music. You can still play the game. You can still play the game, but you can't. But you don't hear the memorable music, and you don't get the infamous intro video. Crap! I didn't think about that. Otherwise, I would have put the CD in the drive. But yeah, I do have the no CD crack from the year 2000 when this game came out. So you still get the sound effects, and the game runs okay. Yeah, you can see the game runs okay on here. I just loaded up the Madison, Wisconsin stage. I remember this was actually the first city I loaded when I had the game as a kid, back in the year 2000. My dad's like, whoa, that's Madison, Wisconsin. And as you can see, this game is really lagging. It actually wasn't doing too poorly before, so I'm a little surprised at the lag here. Seems to be really thrashing that disc. Yeah, this game, SimCity, sadly, I mean, it seems like with the no CD crack, the game is pretty much unplayable. Although when I had the CD in earlier, it did work. So maybe I'll fish that out. Maybe I'll fish that out and see if the game runs any better with the disc in the drive, because it seems like with the no CD patch, it is borderline unplayable. Well, that sucks, because it was playable with the CD in the drive, or the DVD rather, because I actually made a DVD out of it. But yeah, so those are just a few games on here. Speaking of games, Windows Me also introduced the Internet games, which are now defunct. It also introduced Spider Solitaire, which does still work, and I have no idea how to play Spider. Legitimately, I don't. But yeah, this was the first version of Spider, which we'll get out of, because I have no idea how to play this. But yeah, Windows Me was basically, I mean, I would agree with those that basically said Windows Me is a glorified Windows 98 2nd edition. Really, the only reasons that I would have upgraded, because my first computer was a compact Presario desktop that had Windows Me on it, but Uncle Arthur ended up installing Windows 2000 on it because Windows 2. And fun fact, speaking of Windows 2000, that's what I wanted to mention. Did you know that even though Windows Me is newer than Windows 2000, you can technically, this is the only time in Windows history this has been possible, you can perform an in-place downgrade to Windows 2000, because technically Windows 2000 came out February 17th of 2000 for general availability, and Windows Millennium came out for general availability on September 14th, 2000. So technically, because Windows Me is, even though it's based on the 9X kernel and Windows 2K is NT kernel, is NT based, you can technically in-place downgrade from Windows Me to Windows 2000, and I have done that in the past. Yes, you do lose the ability to launch System Restore on Windows Movie Maker. Those programs will not, the Windows Me versions will not run on Windows 2K. They'll be preserved, but they won't run. But the programs will not run on Windows 2000. You'll get a, I think it just says like the program is not a valid Win32 application or something like that, because obviously those programs are designed to run on Windows 9X and they are not designed for the NT kernel. But it is actually possible to in-place downgrade. This is the only time in Microsoft Windows history this has ever happened. And yeah, it's possible because, you know, that's really the only thing you can, that's really about the only time I can ever think where you could downgrade. I mean, you could uninstall upgrades, like if you upgraded from like Win311 to 95 or 98, you could uninstall the upgrade. But basically, yeah, like you really could never, you could never really downgrade, in-place downgrade. So, anyways, to go out here, well, we got Beck. That's copywritten though, but I do have Sonic the Hedgehog. This is the special stage theme from the first Sonic game on the Genesis. So at least this is not copywritten, so this is something I can play. And yeah, Windows Media Player 7 was a worthwhile upgrade, although you could upgrade to it on 98 SE, unlike, but yeah, Windows Me definitely, but Windows Millennium was definitely a decent OS. I always found it much more stable and not nearly as buggy as everyone claimed it was back in the day. I actually liked Windows Millennium, and sadly I didn't get to play with it much more after Uncle Arthur upgraded my compact to Windows 2000, and then my second computer, the Dell Dimension 4600, came with Windows XP. So sadly, I didn't really get to play with Windows Me rather, until about probably around 2009ish when I was in middle school. because, and I just, as a young kid, I just don't really remember Windows Me too much, or I didn't remember it as being that bad. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, gotta love me being neurodivergent. But my camera battery's about to die, so that's what my mind's racing about. But Windows Me is definitely a notable OS in my book. I really like. I never really had a problem with it, and I don't think Windows Me deserved the hate it got even back then, because it really wasn't that bad of an OS. I mean, yeah, it's sort of a glorified 98 SE, but obviously stripping out real mode DOS did have its advantages to speeding up the system and improving boot time. So if DOS is not important, if DOS compatibility is not important to you, then Windows Me was a worthwhile upgrade. Also, my favorite features of Windows Me personally were the system restore function, which we took for granted up until I think Windows 7, because then they deprecated it and it could restore a lot of malware. And I also loved Windows Movie Maker, because without Windows Movie Maker, YouTube poops probably wouldn't exist. So you have Windows Me to thank for that. And while some argue that it was Microsoft's knockoff of iMovie, which by the year 2000 Apple had already come out with iMovie 2, Windows Me definitely holds a special place in my heart, because it does have, I don't know, there's just a certain charm of it being, it's the last Windows 9X version, and I don't think Windows has ever had the customizability that it had, during the Windows 95, 98 Millennium era, after XP came out. Because, I mean, yeah, XP had the Luna theme, Classic, and all that, and the Classic theme held on through Windows 7, but Windows just isn't customizable anymore, and you just can't do the stuff you could especially with, I mean, I'm basically moving to Linux now. I'm moving and Mac, I mean, I'm moving way away from Windows, because, Windows is just gross these days. But, you know what? To think that a quarter of a century ago, Windows Me came out, and you know what? Even though it may not have been perceived as the Millennium Edition, to me, it will always be Millennium Edition, not Mistake Edition, or Major Embarrassment, or whatever you want to say. To me, it's Millennium Edition, or, for me more, Memory Edition. Happy birthday, old friend. So with that, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. They help out a lot. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys not too far in the future. Bye!